Good afternoon, everyone. We will call this meeting to order at 4 p.m. on November 10th, 2020. We'll begin with the adoption of the agenda. Administration, any additions or changes to the agenda?
None, thank you.
Council, any discussion, additions, changes requested? Mr. Mayor?
I'll move to adopt the agenda for November.
Excellent, very good. Any discussion, council? Seeing none, then we will call that to question, please. All those in favor of adopting the agenda? And that is approved unanimously. We do not have any citizens minute with council today, so that will bring us to our delegations and presentations, which makes up the bulk of today's agenda. We'll begin with our Foothills Recreation Management Association delegation as presented by Aaron Jones. Well, we'll just give that a second. Council, we'll just we'll take a brief 2-minute pause while we wait for Mr. Jones to be readmitted.
Oh, he's coming.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Then we will reconvene, and we'd like to welcome Mr. Aaron Jones to today's meeting, who will be presenting on behalf of the Foothills Recreation Management Association. Welcome, Mr. Jones. Aaron, can you hear us?
Is our volume on? Yes.
Always a good question. And is there anything in our chat box from Mr. Jones, just in case? No. So we'll just try one more time. Mr. Jones, can you hear us at all?
I was just messaging Mr. Jones. He's mentioned his mic is down.
Okay, then again, we council will give this another minute or so and see if we can rectify the technical issues, and we'll see where it goes from there. So again, we'll just take a brief minute recess, but if I could ask council to stay, and if we get that together, we'll just continue on.
I don't know if we require a motion, but if Hinton's ready, let's flip them.
It's going to be a minute if it has rectified. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Then I think, council, what we'll do is we'll see if Mr. Jones can work out any potential technical solutions, and then we can have him potentially drop back in later. But in the meantime, I think what we should do is proceed to the Heba presentation by Ms. Stevenson. And we will welcome Suzanne Stevenson from Heba, who will be presenting for us today. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi. Hopefully everyone can hear and see me. And I better start talking because I only have 2 minutes. So everyone on council knows I'm Suzanne. I'm on the board of directors with the Hinton Mountain Bike Association, and I sit in the director of operations position. So hopefully everyone had a chance to review the information package with the rundown from 2020, just the quick numbers. I think the big one to note from this year is that we had way over 500 volunteer hours put in. It just goes to show how important these trails are to everyone. Where we spend the money that we get from the town, we get 15,000 in operational funds, and that goes directly into maintenance in the bike park. The key focus of that work is all safety, so that if an accident were to ever occur in the bike park, we can say as a town and as a volunteer association, we did our due diligence with working with Jay Hoots to ensure that the bike park is at a level that's safe for anyone to come in and enjoy. The 7,000 that goes into the capital reserves is for new projects, expansions, things like that. That should be sitting at about 50,000 right now. We have not taken anything out and right now have no plans to ask for anything from that. If we do go into that, it's a 90-day request to the admin for us to access that money. For 2021, we are asking to keep things the same, while recognizing that in an ideal world, we'd probably be spending 20 to 30,000 on maintenance every year. And that's all detailed in the master plan that everyone should have a copy of. 15,000 is keeping us at a level that's safe. So we are very happy with that. And of course, we want to say thank you guys for supporting us and working with us, both to admin and council, because we really acknowledge that not every group in Hinton and not really any group in Alberta has the type of support that we have from the town. So that's definitely something to be proud of. I'm probably up now. So any questions?
Perfect. Thanks, Suzanne. Council, so it's over to us. Any questions for Ms. Stevenson? All right. Well, Suzanne, we want to thank you for your time and for your presentation. Yeah, if council does have any further questions, you can certainly expect that we'll be happy to contact or follow up by email or by phone. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right. And then council, we will now move on to delegation number 3, presentation by the Historical Society, presented by Miss Madison Charlton. Maddie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for presenting today.
Yeah, no worries. I'll get started then. So I'm Madison with the Northern Rockies Museum, and I just kind of wanted to highlight some of our successes and our asks this year. So we were requesting $75,000 for our budget this year, and that's going to help us do so many things for town. I have in our lookbook that I made linked up all of the museum's activities to important points in the town strategic plan, just showing how crucial the museum is to help fulfill some of those things and how integral the museum is to be intertwined with town. I really want to highlight that we have brought 500 plus kids from other communities to Hinton, and because of our programs, and those students have then used other facilities in town. It's a great way to boost a whole bunch of organizations. We've also been doing some partnerships outside of the community, including Route to the Rockies, which has a billboard up right now to drive people into Hinton who are along the Yellowhead Highway. It's just another way that we're bringing people in. And yeah, we have so many services for the town. So you'll see that we have a big list of all of our services there. And we really do all of those things with 1.5 people. And I think that's one of our strengths there. And a big thing too is our social media presence. In such weird and uncertain times, we have increased that exponentially in a very full ocean of other social media. And we've been able to get through and make valuable content that I think makes a difference for the town and kind of boosts pride when everybody knows about their history and their past. Yeah, and that's my little spiel for you guys, if you have any questions.
Perfect, thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Race.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So, Maddie, are you able to tell us where you're sitting financially right now from June 1st, moving this way?
So the way that our year works, so we ended on May, so June we're doing quite well, because we get the town funds like halfway through our year. It looks weird on our financials because we're halfway through the year. So we're doing okay. Things have been really different because of admissions have been down, school programming. We have been able to supplement that with our quarantine, which is really successful, and our subscription boxes are doing quite well now, which is a really great revenue stream for us. We're trying to fill in those areas as best as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, any other questions? I guess I have one, Maddie. Maddie, to the common everyday citizen who doesn't look at financials but might be interested, how has COVID since last spring impacted your operations financially? How would you sort of summarize that to the taxpayer if we were trying to explain, potential impacts to funding, that sort of thing?
Yes, so we have had hardly any rentals. That's a big thing. So programming we've been able to maintain throughout this pretty good, but we haven't been able to do rentals, and that includes birthday parties. And that was a huge revenue stream. Last year, we were having birthday parties like Friday, Saturday, sometimes 3 or 4 on a weekend. So that was a lot of money coming in, and we don't have that anymore. We're trying to be as safe as we can and bring some of those things back in, but it is very difficult. But I think that we're trying to get through it with, bringing in some online programming, this Learning Railway subscription box, best that we can.
Thank you. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maddie, I'm just wondering, with COVID, and I know a lot of different organizations had opportunities to apply for subsidies and things like that due to the fact that income was affected. Was there anything available for museums or your organization?
So the Alberta Museums Association got their funding cut by almost half from the government. So that was a huge revenue stream that isn't available anymore. It is there, but we are competing with hundreds of other museums on that. We did apply for all of the COVID money from the government as much that we could apply for. So we did do that. But other than that, we've been trying to see how well we can do with our in-house programs and really been focusing on that. It's not to say we haven't applied for grants. We have applied for many grants, and we have asked community members for sponsorships as well, bigger business. It's just there is a lot of asks being handed out right now. And so there's very important organizations that need money as well too.
So if I may, the applications you've made for COVID, you haven't heard back from them yet, or you have?
No, we have got money for those.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, you were,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions? All right, well then, seeing none, Maddie, thanks so much for your time and your presentation. As I mentioned to previous delegations, if we do have any more clarifying questions or requests for communications, we're certainly happy to follow up by either phone or email, just to get the information we need moving through budget. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, and council, I see that we have Natalie Charlton up. Hi, Natalie. Natalie will be presenting on behalf of the Hinton and District Chamber of Commerce. And so, Natalie, thanks for coming, and we look forward to hearing from you today.
Okay, well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to be signing in actually from Edmonton this afternoon. So Wendy has already given you the information in the package. You'll see that I kept my presentation a little bit brief, just because recently I had presented to council with an update on where we were at with Explore Hinton and some of the initiatives that we ran this summer. The ask of Mayor and Council is that we would continue on with the service agreement to provide visitors information services at the visitor center, and that the chamber would provide the services to visitors in the off season. A part of the agreement would be to provide the Hinton Visitors Guide again this year, but we're looking at something a little bit different where we would try to incorporate Explore Hinton in that initiative. And we are wanting to put on community events as part of our agreement, but as you're all aware, we're a little bit challenged with what that's going to look like. Not that we want to not provide those services, but we're still kind of holding out on the parade coming up as to whether or not that will happen or not. But yes, as you are aware, we did ask council for a top up to our service agreement last year, and we are asking for the same ask again this year.
Thank you very, very much, Natalie. Council, any questions? Councilor Nelson.
Has there been any indication from the province as far as funding goes, especially understanding now that our MLA is the parliamentary secretary for big jobs in tourism, so you might have a bit of an inside track on that?
Yeah, I'm not totally aware of any fundings that are coming down, Councillor Nelson. But certainly we are always applying for different grant fundings through whether it be the federal government or the provincial government. I haven't found anything that's coming out for the actual operations of a visitor's center at the moment, but certainly it would be something that we would be quick to apply for if that should come out.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Wong.
Good evening, Natalie. I was wondering, will the chamber be approaching Yellowhead County again as well this year?
Yes, we will. It is our intentions to present with a delegation with a similar ask as well.
Thank you.
Council, any further questions? All right. Then see none. Natalie, if as I've mentioned to the other delegations this evening, if council does have any further questions or concerns, certainly we'll be in touch by either email or phone, just so that we can get our information clarified as we move through the budgetary process. So thanks for your time this evening. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to seeing where this goes as we move forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You as well.
I guess we're just gonna call you.
Okay, perfect.
Hello, Aaron speaking.
Aaron, how are you? It's Deputy Mayor Ryan Magoon and council with our administration. Thanks so much for your patience through the technical concerns.
Yeah, no problem. I can see you guys and I've heard everything. I just, for whatever reason, I can't sign it.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you presenting with us today. So council, we will circle back to our first delegation, the Foothills Recreation Management Association. And Mr. Jones, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. Well, I did send you guys some information, just an overview and an update on where PERMA is right now. I'll just sort of reiterate it's a partnership between a number of different companies and organizations, of which the town of Hinton is one, and parks and an Aboriginal owned and operated not-for-profit company here in Hinton called Fox Creek. And Fox Creek basically does all the day-to-day operation and maintenance and upgrades to all the rec sites we look after. Right now, that's about 20 campgrounds and 8 trail systems. This last year was our busiest ever, which was certainly we didn't think it was going to be like that at the beginning of the year because of COVID, obviously. We didn't open for the May long weekend, which is one of the busiest weekends of the year, and half capacity through June, and didn't open our group camps to the end of July. And with all that, we still increased our revenue from the previous year by about 50%, 30%. So we brought in about $200,000 worth of revenue, and our best year before was about 150. And that sounds like a lot of revenue, but it actually takes us about $400,000 to $425,000 a year to maintain the campgrounds that we look after. I also want to note that FIRMA is a partnership with the campgrounds, but West Fraser also does a lot of recreational upgrades on their own with their own money. And we've, over the last 3 years, we've put about $850,000 in rec upgrades in the Hinton area. And a large portion of that is the Bighorn Mountain Bike Trail that we've been building for the last couple of years. And happy to say that we actually finished that trail. The machine work is done right to the top. So that's a 13-kilometer up trail and a 5-kilometer down trail. And I've ridden on it. Absolutely amazing, and it's going to bring people to it for sure. And we have plans to do more on that in the next couple of years. So that's my 2 minutes worth.
Perfect. Thank you, Aaron. Then I'm going to look to council to see if there's any questions. Council, any questions or points of information for Mr. Jones? Councillor Wong.
Hi, Aaron. I noticed in your presentation that you don't see much commitment from some of the other partners yet for 2021.
Yeah, that's correct. So Tech, they obviously they shut down, and they were one of our big partners, and they had been contributing $50,000 a year since 2011. And this year they cut that to $25,000, and basically said next year it's going to be less than that, but they will contribute. And then we also, the Westmoreland coal mine, they kind of contribute on and off over the years, sort of when they have some money they do. It's usually in the $10,000 a year range. I've talked with Bighorn a couple of times and really haven't got any commitments from them. They're interested, but no commitment to date. And then we did get the town of Edson for $20,000 in 2020 for the first time. But they're sort of wavering on that commitment as well for next year. So, yeah, that just means that the less partners we have, it just means the more money West Fraser puts in.
Has there been any consideration of potentially raising camping fees?
Well, we talk about that, but here's the trouble with that is that these are all rustic campgrounds. There's no electricity, sewer, or anything like that. And so it has a pretty sensitive price point. If you raise them very much higher, people are just going to random camp. And the whole idea behind FIRMA was to get people not random camping and into designated camping areas. And the way that we figured we'd do that is it would be inexpensive, high quality camping with free firewood. And if we start raising the prices too much, we're going to jeopardize that. People are going to start random camping. Having said all that, we are going to raise prices this year from $11 to $15. But we can't sort of do what the Gray Campground does and charge people like, $30 a night or whatever it is, or a KOA campground.
Yeah, no, that's fair. As someone who's frequented your campgrounds, $15 a night seems pretty fair. Yeah.
Definitely, with free firewood, that's a pretty good deal still.
Absolutely.
It's still not going to run itself, though. It's still going to be subsidized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Reyes.
Thank you, sir. So, Aaron, I just wanted to thank you so much for this update. It's very thorough. It's you listed some of my favorite campgrounds. I really enjoyed reading the positive comments on Fox Creek Development. Sharon and her crew are outstanding. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor.
I know you're welcome. And Sharon is outstanding. She's one of the hardest workers. I know she was telling me this week that during the summer camping season there, she was putting in 120 hours over a 2-week period on average.
Well, thank you again.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Riggs. Council, any further questions or comments? All right, well then, seeing none, Aaron, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for going through the technological glitches that we deal with sometimes in the electronic age. And just as I mentioned to the other presenters this evening, if council does have any further questions or concerns, we'll certainly be following up with either phone calls or an email for further clarification as we move through budget.
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye. All right. And I see that. I see it. It looks like it's Hannah. So, council, we move on to our fifth delegation this evening, and that's the Home for the Fine Arts Society in Hinton. But we'll hand it off this evening to Hannah. I see that we don't have Denise. Good evening, Hannah.
Denise is behind me.
Oh.
She just, when she was sending off the email, she didn't realize that my name wasn't attached to it. So you get to talk to me.
Perfect. Well, we welcome you. Thank you.
Yeah. We have Denise. We also have Deb is behind me as well. We're all social distancing, but they are all here to answer questions if you guys have any. So we're here on behalf of the Home for Fine Arts Society of Hinton, responsible for running the West Fraser Guild. Sure, as everyone's aware, COVID-19 has impacted all walks of life in recent months. Unfortunately, for patron safety and for the health of our community, we decided to close our doors in March of 2020, along with most other government facilities. Although the provincial guidelines have lessened restrictions, and we could now host events and functions, it would still require us to be at a significantly reduced capacity. This reduced capacity makes it difficult for most of our user groups to use our space to fit their needs. This means our space is currently being underutilized. However, we're comfortable with this state as we're convinced it's what's best for our community as a whole. The arts and culture is essential to our community, but in this current health crisis, we want to be respectful of the needs of the whole. There have been some unintended benefits from COVID-19, however. We have currently managed to operate with only a small portion of the 2020 operating capital we anticipated, so we have ourselves in a fairly unprecedented situation. At this point, we are not putting forward a request for funds for the 2021 year. This has been a year of hardship all around, and although we're optimistic that we will be able to have our facility operated, even if in just a modified way, we're confident that we can do this with the money we have saved during the shutdown. We feel that a part of bettering our community is taking care of all of its needs, and we know that this year there will be even more unexpected expenses, and our 2020 appropriation would be better used for our community if left in the hands of Town Council to distribute according to need. Together we'll survive and thrive, even with COVID-19, and the West Fraser Guild and the Ash Board will look forward to welcoming our community back through our doors once it's safe to do so. Any questions?
Council, any questions? Councilor House.
Yeah, just a quick question. I know you guys have worked hard in putting money aside for different, for an asset management type of program for different equipment and stuff like that. That's not something that's going to be jeopardized with this.
Not in the slightest. We have, in order to, as we were looking towards making money available for next year, we did not touch our asset management accounts at all. Those are in locked GICs and we renewed those again. We are not touching those in the slightest.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just take a moment to say thank you. I think that's fiscally responsible. Unprecedented, certainly welcome, given the fact that we're all in such a difficult position with this last year. And I think to come forward and let council know that, you've, as a society, you've been fiscally responsible enough to take care of your capital capital considerations and understanding where you're at in terms of COVID and not putting forward a request for appropriations. It's very appreciated, very responsible, and I think it just shows the hard work and dedication as a group that you find folks are putting into it. So let me just say thank you. I think it's a big deal.
Thank you.
Councillor Wong?
Just to get a number out there, what was the allocation in 2020?
Our allocation from last year, sorry, you're a little quiet. I have my computer speakers maxed, but I'm having a hard time.
The allocation for 2020
was 55,000, and we actually didn't end up requesting or receiving that cash until about a month ago. We never ended up getting it because we didn't need it yet. So we were in kind of a spot of, do we take last year's appropriation and not ask this year, or do we ask for half and half? And at recommendation of the town, we went along with the idea of picking up the amount that we requested last year that had already been allocated, and then just not requesting money for this year.
Thank you.
Council, any further questions or comments? Very good. Then seeing none, ladies, thank you so much for your time this evening. If council does have any more questions or concerns, we'll certainly be in touch by either phone or email as we move forward through the budget process. So we just want to say thanks for showing up this evening and helping us out with the information we need to move the budget forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Council, that does wrap up the delegations and presentations segment of this evening's agenda. We are going to move therefore into our first and only discussion item of the evening, and that is the golf course discussion. Administration, did you have any preamble you wanted, or do you simply want council to lead off with the discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can set some context a little bit before turning it over to council. At our agenda prep meeting, we discussed including a golf course discussion. Administration is looking for some additional direction on future operations and use of the golf course. At this time, we're exploring what's possible with the Hinton Golf Society in the medium and longer term. But wanted to give council an opportunity to provide any additional direction into that research to bring back options for council to consider in that medium and longer term for operations of the golf course. Knowing that there are increased expenses around that asset, it was not in the long-term plan to assume that asset. Just want to be sure that council has an opportunity to request any additional information that would help in any future decision making for the golf course.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So council, this is an item that we have before us. It is a discussion item, so I think we are looking for council's thoughts, potential direction for administration, or ideas. So I will open it up to comments, discussions, questions. Councilor Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to clarify, we have a 1-year operating agreement with Golf Society at this point.
That's right.
Okay, and you said that we're going to be continuing discussions about potential medium and long-term solutions as well.
That's
right. Like that one.
Yes, please.
Sorry, there's no report, so I'm just trying to get some comments. The additional costs you're speaking of, is that for the asset? How much are we paying per year for the mortgage on clubhouse?
Through to Councilor Watt, the loan amounts that the town has assumed are $158,000 per year.
Thank you.
I guess, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question is, if there is no direction given, how do those conversations work from the administration standpoint in 2021?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Mayor Michaels, at this time, there's no additional direction outside of the direction received to enter into the agreement for 1 year from October 31st, 2020 to October 31st, 2021. So we don't have any direction to proceed in any moving forward.
So if I may,
Mr.
I guess this doesn't really limit other options, but I think one thing we could lay out is what does that timeline look like? When in 2021 do we want to get a report with these options and discuss and sort of set up the following year is at least to me the first step in, I guess, the contents of it can be decided another day if that's the will of council. But that's sort of how I see us moving forward tonight, is establishing a timeline for that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll follow up. I guess administration, understanding that, for this next calendar year, we essentially have an operating agreement in place. Is it the intention of administration to bring forward to council any alternatives to this particular asset, like if there were interested outside businesses who have, or maybe, into purchasing the piece of property or purchasing part of the piece of property or leasing, those sorts of things. If those sorts of interests were to come to administration, would administration bring those forward to us in the next year, or would administration prefer to have a direction of council to explore those potential opportunities as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To answer your question, there has been some interest in expressed on the property and what the intention is moving forward. And this stems back a few months as well. A few different inquiries that have come across our desk over the last year. So without any direction from council to entertain any of those conversations further than just receiving the inquiries, we haven't really done anything with them. There's a number of potential opportunities or options for council to investigate further, for administration to investigate and bring information back, including the potential sale of the lands, potential subdivision, and different use of the land. So without really knowing the scope of what council is interested in, the intention of the report would be to provide some high-level information on what those options could be. So that's the direction that administration is looking for. So as far as the timeline goes, a high-level report can be prepared and brought to council pending any direction that council is interested in providing tonight early on in the new year to start those conversations and to find out what council is interested in.
And council, just before I go to Councilor Nelson, just to clarify a little bit on that, I think for myself, that sort of direction would be good. Not that that is an avenue that I would necessarily prefer, but I think in order to be fiscally responsible and keep the best interests of the town in mind, I think having all the options moving forward would be good, and being able to let the town and the citizens of the town know what options we have potentially before us as far as other business models might be concerned is a good thing. Councilor Nelson.
Yeah, I'm actually going to propose a direction and see what comes of it. Direct administration to bring back a report outlining options for land consolidation at the Hinton Golf Course to a standing committee before the end of Q2 2021. And if I could speak to it, I think one of the biggest challenges we'll have, regardless of what the next steps are, is that right now the land is under at least three different, the care of three different bodies, one of which is private, one is municipal, one is provincial. And regardless if we entertain it as a municipal golf course, or we sell it to a developer, or we change something into highway commercial, or we put a campground there, or the golf society buys it back from the town, whatever the next steps are, I think having clarity and certainty around that land, whether that's establishing long-term leases or purchasing back some of the privately owned stuff, or acquiring more of the crown land, I think that is a foundational step for anything else we do moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. I'll just speak to that, looking to administration. Admin, when I read this this recommended direction, I see this is essentially a partner direction to any proposed exploration of other options we have. I think the land question goes hand in hand with other potential business options. Is that your read on the situation as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Investigating the land consolidation wouldn't preclude any other research and preparation of reports by administration to bring to council. I would expect we would bring something far ahead of the end of Q2, just in that interest.
Perfect. Thank you. Council, any further discussions? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, for the sake of simplicity, maybe it's irrelevant, but do we want that motion to be the will of council? Do we want to say a lending option, including land consolidation? Or is administration going to bring two different reports to us with two different things? I just don't want to comment things in the spring. So I don't want to say what I think our CEO said, but that would, do we want to look at everything at the same time? Is I guess my question to council.
I'll turn that back over to Councillor Nelson because I think that's a question for him.
Yeah, well, I think so. For me tonight, this being a discussion item with no report and administration is actively looking for direction, this is a direction that I can support without any public engagement, without any report, because I know it's something that we need to do, and it could be the foundation for the conversations with the public. If at any point administration was bringing this back within another report, then I think we consider that to be done. Like if we need to do it through action tracking and say, okay, we've accomplished these two things in one report, then so be it. Like, I'm not. And again, the timeline was pretty broad to allow that to happen. And sorry if I could. And potentially, if other people are looking to make directions tonight, this might make sense to table until the end of the agenda item, at which point, if we feel like it's been encompassed with another one, then it can just be rescinded at that point. Thank you.
Council, any further questions or points of information? Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fully in support of the motion that's currently before us. I think that's an important part of figuring out what the long-term solution is for the existing golf course. However, I'm not comfortable in having the town committed to a long-term liability obligation that they're currently carrying forward. I would like a permanent solution to the future of the golf course decided on sooner rather than later. So I would definitely like to see something in conjunction with this regarding how the town can be able to move forward with the future of the golf course in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ostashik. Council, any further discussion or points of information on the direction on the table? Very well. Seeing none, we will call to question the direction that Council directed administration to bring back a report outlining options for land consolidation at the Hinton Golf Course to a standing committee meeting before the end of Q2 2021. All those in favor, please indicate. And any opposed? Seeing none, and that is carried unanimously. Very good. Council, the discussion item is potentially still on the floor. Looking for any other discussion, questions, and or potential direction for administration. Administration has indicated that if this is an area council wants to explore, they would appreciate some direction so that they can go and do some exploration. Councillor Nelson.
I too share a lot of what Councillor Ostashik says about timing, but I also wonder, and I have no idea how it would come in any sort of direction, but if you're looking at potentially divesting yourself of a golf course or potentially changing a hole into commercial to sell and develop, whatever the options are, I wonder if we actually might be strategically better to go slow. I'm not sure in 2021 there's going to be a huge interest in large investments like that. So I'm just, I don't know if that's an ECDEV thing where they can maybe bring back a market report on the viability of selling a golf course in 2021, or if you're maybe better to wait. I have no concept of how to turn that into some sort of a direction or if it even requires one, but that would be one of the questions that I would ask if, whenever we get to the next stages of our long-term plans to the golf course. Thank you.
Council? Council, this is, you know what, this might be a good point in time, I think, just looking at the time and understanding that we've been sitting for about 45 minutes. I think I am going to call a brief break. I'm going to call a 7-minute break, recess, and then when we return, we'll continue discussing the golf course discussion. Perfect. Council, we will reconvene here at approximately 4:54 p.m. Council, any questions so far? Councilor Nelson.
Yes, the question I have, and again, I don't know how you would accomplish a motion, but I have a huge amount of interest in seeing anything compelling that comes forward, but also understanding that we would likely have to put out an RFP before something can come forward. So I guess if there's interested parties in a direction that you're seeing a lot of demand from the market, and we could, I would love to have that two-way communication, but I also don't know right now what kind of a, without a report and without some other things, what kind of direction would allow administration to bring back options. So I'm not really sure what that direction would look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. CAO, any comments on
that? Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first step that administration was looking for was to bring back kind of a high-level sort of menu, but just add some options for council with a bit of research done to get a sense of if there's anything that we can delve into a little bit deeper and assist council with some decision making. So that was some of the direction we're looking for tonight. I'm not sure if that answers your question exactly. I think that looking at just an indication from council that council is interested in more than just, not just, but the continuation with the golf society. I just wanted to remind council of some of the considerations that administration brought forward in camera during the transfer of assets report discussion earlier in October. So that, as well as what's prompting this additional request for direction.
Council, I am prepared to furnish a direction, but in order to do so, I will ask Councilor Ostashik to assume the duties of the chair.
I can do that.
Thank you, Councilor.
That's what we're doing.
I'd like to present a direction for council's consideration, please. Direct administration to present options regarding any potential economic development opportunities involving the Hinton Golf Course. If I could just speak to that. Yeah, Councilor, I think I'm very much in the same boat as Councilor Nelson, and I believe Councilor Ostashik. I'd like to know what potential options we have. Administration's asked for some direction in order to bring forward some of those high-level ideas and sort of pieces of interest that they've heard floating around. I think this is a way to do that. Unless anybody has any concerns or considerations, I'm certainly open to it. I'd just like to get the ball rolling on seeing what potential there is out there, sort of in a non-judgmental sort of way moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Magoon. We have a direction request before us. Would you like to speak to it? Councilor Nelson.
A question, and maybe this is up to administration as far as the interpretation, but would this direction allow administration to look at long-term management of it through the society, understanding that a golf course, a continued ongoing golf course, is potentially economic development and tourism, and also would it allow administration to look at divesting of the golf course entirely.
Mr. Chair, through to Councillor Nelson. Absolutely, that's continuing research and consideration of the Hinton Golf Society managed golf course is something that we would include. That's something through the previous conversation with council that was made clear. So looking at this, I believe that satisfies what we're looking for: economic development opportunities, including what status quo essentially, and any other opportunity or option that can be considered by council.
If I can just follow up with Mr. Chair. Yeah, that satisfies me, and I'll certainly support it. To me, either end of the spectrum is as it is right now, to complete divestiture of it, and somewhere in between. So I'm good supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I'm of the same mind that, you know, we're paying $158,000 a year to pay off an asset. It'd be good to get an idea what opportunities are out there to maximize the return on that asset, but at the same time acknowledging that, you know, it's been a community golf course for 60+ years. So I want to preserve that that service and that amenity for our community as well. So thank you.
Michaels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll also be in favor of this, and I do want to make a comment to anyone who's listening or the public. This doesn't mean there will be no opportunity to blend it. You can still have an 18-hole golf course and still look at economic development opportunities. There's lots of land that's open within that area. So I think to make that clear to the public that there is a multitude of avenues. And the reason this could not be done before is because we had a 15-year lease with the golf committee that put into place it's staying status quo the way it was. So this gives us an opportunity to look into the extra value, whether it's highly commercial or it's within. But that golf course was placed there, and from to my knowledge, you can easily add 9 more holes to that golf course based on the way the course was laid out, or the back 9 was laid out. So I strongly support this. Let's see every opportunity we have to maximize our value and also potentially keep 18 or even more courses in the future. So I think this is a great start at something we have an opportunity right in front of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Michaels. No one else here. I'm going to take the opportunity to speak to this myself. I'm speaking in favor of this as well. I think this is an opportunity to look at some maybe creative options that may have not been able to be considered up to this point. At the first meeting of the Destination Marketing Organization, there was a question posed to the DMO operator from Jasper about where there's any gaps in the service that Jasper provides. And the one response was that there is currently an inability for Jasper to be able to supply a convention center. So if Hinton was to move in any kind of direction to offer any type of service that's not locally available, a convention center would be a good thing. I think a convention center that's tied to an 18-hole golf course would be an outstanding asset for Hinton to be able to have. So something like that, or some other, creative options that we could look at for possible divestiture, I think would be a good opportunity. So I am in favor. However, I do have a clarifying question, and I guess it would be posed to Councilor Magoon since it was his motion. In the past, in discussing golf course, it's been conveyed to us it's important that the community of Hinton continues to have a golf course available, and there's been discussion amongst the table and supporting the proposed direction all the way up to complete divestiture. So with that in mind, did you have an intent to have that, just to clarify for administration, is this all the way up to complete and total divestiture with any type of future development, or was the intent that there was going to continue to be a publicly available golf course on the property?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think for myself, it's knowing all of the options, even though I absolutely echo a lot of the same concerns that have been around the table in terms of honoring the tradition of having a community golf course. That being said, just to know the potential scope of any options that are out there. Sorry, I'm going to try and find a different way. If there's a private developer who right now was interested and had been talking to the town about, hey, I want to, we want to buy this whole piece of property and develop it, to the nth degree, I would like to know that option, even if it wasn't particularly one that would, be favored at the end of the day. I think having all the information is better, which is why I'd support having, up to and including full divestiture, but taking that with a grain of salt, if I may.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilor Maroon. That doesn't change my opinion on supporting the proposed direction. I think seeing any potential options beneficial. So before we call the question, is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the proposed direction? Okay, seeing no one, call the question that council direct administration to present options regarding any potential economic development opportunities involving the Hinton Golf Course. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Excellent. I'm going to turn the chair duties back over to Councilor Gunn.
Thanks, Councilor Ostash. Thank you, Council. Council, is there any other discussion or items that you'd like to bring up regarding the golf course discussion? Seeing none, then we will move on to the additional information section of this evening's agenda, and we will begin with urgent matters from council. And I will begin with Councilor Ostash.
I have nothing, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Councilor Thompson.
Nothing for me.
Councilor Nelson.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Councilor Wong.
No, sir.
Councilor Race.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Nothing, Chair.
I do have a couple of items that were brought to my attention. The first is administration, some concerns that were passed on regarding communication at the rec center regarding COVID. There was some concerns, and unfortunately, since Sunday when these were passed on to me, I haven't had the chance to go and look myself yet. But they were concerned essentially that the front-facing signage at both entrances, they weren't particularly clear when you walk into the building. It was there they had felt, but just further back and inside, and it maybe muddied up the communication. I can't speak to that. I haven't been there myself. And so they wanted to pass that on in the hopes that maybe we could work on that. Council, along with that communication that both myself and Councilor Nelson were there for, one of the things the citizen did also communicate to us was a concern that our different user groups have different, essentially, standards for their own practices in terms of COVID, whether or not you wear masks to, say, Hinton minor hockey games and other user groups. And that also potentially creates some confusion, like if you're in the foyer versus going into the arena where the games are, technically the rules can change, so to speak. And so they had, requested potentially that for town operated facilities, we consider going to one uniform code that all user groups can fall under. So that, again, I just bring that to your attention that concern was passed on to us. And I thought it was a reasonable one the way it was presented. The other one is regarding an email that I sent, forwarded on, earlier today from Miss Nadine Bancroft. The Hinton Curling Club, they are hosting an under 18 boys and girls curling championship January 6th to the 10th, bringing in 64 curlers. They have requested that the town of Hinton basically provide swag. And so I'd pass that information on and promised I would. If administration could consider that and just let me know what your take is on that so that I could get back to the citizen in question, that would be awesome. And that is it for myself. And that wraps up urgent matters from council. We will move on to the CAO status report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to touch on the first item you brought forward, administration did receive an email with a lot of that same content. So we're doing our internal review. Should have some information to share with council and again with the resident who brought that forward. And any communications that are required stemming from changes or anything like that will be done promptly. But thank you for speaking to that tonight as well. I have one item I just wanted to touch on, just given the discussion item for this week and how we're managing discussion items. So discussion item section of the agenda is reserved for any items that council would like to bring forward. So to bring forward as a discussion prior to any action or motion made to direct administration to follow up on anything. However, we're seeing a little bit of a lack of context in bringing those forward. So though the golf course discussion item was generated out of agenda prep discussion for council, we're running into that. So what I wanted to bring forward, and this was actually discussed with the agenda prep committee last week, in recognition of this kind of issue that we're seeing. We have a lot of discussion items coming forward, but if there was a template or some sort of document that council could use to provide that context for council's benefit moving into that discussion, that's something I've provided a little bit to council through an email. But if there was something that was included in the agenda, it would mean it would be high level. It would really include the topic and any kind of couple of sentences or whatnot that would help council understand what the intention was for that discussion item. That's something that could be included in the procedure bylaw review committee, the scope of that work. It could also be a template that's added similar to admin's report templates. In my opinion, it would be something fairly high level, could be brought to council for to determine whether it met the mark. So I just wanted to bring that forward to see council's thoughts. Just knowing that we could maybe alleviate some of the questions or the concern around what's being brought forward for discussion items during the agenda preparation and package. So with that to council, just for your consideration moving forward. Otherwise, not too much to report. Working on some answers to some questions that have come forward due to the meeting schedule impacts around minutes and how frequently they are provided, as well as chair duties. Some of that again can be addressed through the procedure bylaw review, but there are some things that I think we can take a look at and provide some solutions prior to that, in particular around the minutes. Otherwise, I think that's it for this evening.
Perfect, thank you. We will move to legislative services update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a lot to update. I'm still settling in. It's my 7th day. Just reviewing some of the requirements for the upcoming 2021 election and see if we need to get any bylaws together to be passed before nomination day, January 1st, or the start of nominations. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And executive assistant logistics information. And there we are. Council, that leaves us with adjournment. Mr. Mayor, motion to adjourn. Thank you very much. Council, any discussion? Seeing none, we will call that to question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. Have